Well, hey folks, relaunch with John Reynolds. Times in Wrestling to Piss Me Off, Redux Part 24. Last one I'm going to be doing. Big thanks to you guys for the topic suggestions either on here or on Twitter. Really means a lot. This series would not have gone nearly as far without your guys' continued support and continued input. So it really means a lot. If I forgot to mention your guys' username or YouTube channel handle, my apologies, but just know this series would not be where it was without you guys. Too many people to mention, but just big thanks. You guys know who you are, the ones that have suggested all this stuff. If you guys like Angry Rants, you will love my Wrestling's Most Tasteless series that I just started, where I talk about bad stuff from Impact, WWE, WCW, even from ECW, whatever company, stuff that I felt was bad taste on the worst taste. But you guys can continue this series, Times in Wrestling to Piss Me Off Redux, by leaving comments and, like you always have, and of topics I haven't talked about. If I can get another 3-4 episodes worth of material, I will be happy to revisit this down the road. But that being said, let's get cracking on with Hogan's We're Getting Real in TNA speech. Oh dear. Oh, this is where Hogan really started to jump the shark for me. I mean, granted, I was already getting irritated with Hogan anyway, with the constant daughter desiring, aspects that he had in his life, and the whole Nick Hogan thing of him not really taking responsibility for what his son did, and the way that all that was handled, and the constant burials of guys like Randy Savage and younger guys and everything. And I recognize that Hulk Hogan is one of, if not the biggest superstar of all time in wrestling. Well, he's one of the biggest superstars of all time. The thing that I want to clarify with people is that I respect what Hogan's done in wrestling, whether I agree with every single thing he did or not. He stayed on top for a long time, in part because of Vince pushing him, in part because of Ted Turner pushing him. And they recognize his drawing power and everything. And I recognize that. The problem is, there's been just as much bad as there has been good. Now, you say that about a lot of wrestlers. You say that Hogan stayed well past his prime. Him coming to TNA, Impact Wrestling, did nothing. It did nothing for the company. It created about that much more buzz, and they had about that much more debt. And I'm sorry, somebody tell me how Hogan, at whatever age he was, almost 60 or whatever the hell he was, being beneficial to that company besides a name. I mean, there's nothing wrong with using legends. I mean, every company has done it, and I totally get it. But Impact just didn't do it right. I mean, well, TNA at the time, because now they have done a lot of good shit. I admit that. I'm not talking about the current Impact brand. They have done a lot of good shit, even with Josh Matthews still being on commentary, because I just don't care for the guy. I don't think he's that good. But anyway, this is a time where Impact was really doing a lot of good shit from 04 to 09. I know I tend to mention it a lot. They were doing a lot of good shit. They were putting on better shows than what WWE Raw and SmackDown were, especially Raw. SmackDown had some really, really good stuff too. Even the pay-per-views were by and large a lot better than WWE, even with some of the fluky finishes and goofy writing like Vince Russo being involved. The last rights match, never forget the fact that Russo came up with that setup. Russo's a goddamn idiot. But moving back to Hogan. Hogan coming into TNA with a world of hype. And I mean, I'm talking a world of hype. They had a press conference in MSG. They had this kind of stuff. Dixie, we're not trying to recreate history. We're trying to make history. Bullshit. You didn't have faith in the people that had given their blood, sweat, and tears from the very beginning. People have been screwed over numerous goddamn times. TNA originals and Impact originals, people that were working hard, the women, the tag teams, all AJ Styles, Christopher Daniels, Kazarian, people like that. And no, let's bring in Hogan, who can barely fucking move anymore. Let's bring in, nothing against Bischoff, whatever. I cast Bischoff off to the side because Hogan was the main focus. Yes, they had Bischoff on TV, but it was what it was. They wanted to focus on Hogan, and they made it all about the old guys. They made it about Flair. The woo-off that he had with Lethal was fine. That was pretty funny. But by and large, a whole bunch of the Impact originals were, TNA originals were just like, oh boy, it's Hulk Hogan. He's going to do a lot of great things. Oh, let's all bow down to the mighty Hulkster, brother. That's pretty much what it was. And it was ridiculous. It made everybody that was an original seem like an idiot. Now I get it. Hogan's a big star. I get it. Flair is one of the biggest stars of all time. One of my top 5 favorite wrestlers. But then they brought in some people, like they brought in RVD to TNA, and that wasn't a bad idea, because I mean RVD was able to do, some good things or whatever. They had him run through AJ for the world title too much, and that's not RVD's fault. That's creative. But they also brought in the Nasty Boys, Val Venus, who was way past his sale day at that point. And they had a bunch of other stuff and everything. But going back to the speech, This is where I really started to have a sour opinion of Hulk Hogan. Even though it took until the whole racist tape, sex tape angle thing, or, that sex tape thing to get released, for him to realize, oh God, he's really not a very good guy. I don't care how dark of a place he was in his life. That was a real piece of shit thing to say. And showed just the kind of person he is. And that's why I don't have much respect for Hulk Hogan anymore, if any. But this is a speech he gave on Reaction, which was, I believe, some kind of sideshow that impacted, that didn't get all that many good ratings, and I don't think lasted very long. But he was giving a speech where he was talking about, he just pissed off the fans so goddamn much. And here's where I'm gonna get a little fucking vicious talking about this thing. I'm gonna try to take it easy because I don't want to give myself a goddamn headache because I got to go to work in about 2 hours. But dripping with hypocrisy, big shock. Hogan giving a speech, dripping with hypocrisy, putting himself over among all these other guys. Well, brother, we're lightening the load around here. We're trimming the fat. We're thinning the herd. I mean, it's pathetic. It sounds like Vince and Hogan did a mashup with the way I'm doing this. It's pathetic that Dixie would let this company get in the shape it's in. Oh, you mean where, guys like Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle actually did a reasonable buy rate for an Impact pay-per-view because Dutch Mantel and everybody actually put in the effort and everything, and that was 2008. And oh yeah, they worked a better match than you had in the past, I would say 15 years, Hogan. But no, that's okay. It's not like they didn't know what they were doing. It's not like the X Division guys weren't fucking killing it. It's not like the women weren't fucking killing it. It's not like some of the legends that maybe were past their prime but had way more left in the tank than you, Hogan, weren't giving their all to try and make Impact Wrestling better, but that's okay. We'll continue with this speech, brother. And I don't like Dixie either, by the way. So, after that, it says, it's her train of thought. Raven, who hasn't had a damn shower or bath. Raven, who has spoken more eloquently on promos than you had in the past number of years, Hogan. And Hogan, one of the best promos of all goddamn time. There's no doubt about that. It was mostly sound bites, mostly stuff like that, but you could say that about The Rock, you could say that about a whole bunch of others. Hogan got you fired up even if you made no goddamn sense, which applies to The Warrior, but Hogan actually could wrestle, unlike The Warrior. There's my one shot at Warrior per show. He makes a comment about Raven, who's one of the best in-ring psychologists of all time. He understood how to put a match together. He understood how to put some stuff together. Sure, okay, he wasn't much of anything outside of WCW and outside of TNA, or outside of ECW and TNA. WCW didn't really know what to do with him. They knew what to do with him more than WWE did. Raven did well with his character, though. I mean, and seemed to do pretty well, even with his health issues. But that's okay. Let's make a comment about his looks. Not like Hogan hasn't looked like an over-tan orangutan for about the last 30 years. With RVD and that whole crew out there, they meant to professional wrestling what Hulk Hogan, who sold out Shea Stadium, who put 94,000 people in the Pontiac Silverdome, it was 78,000, you fucking son of a bitch, who slammed a 700-pound giant, who put you over even though you didn't deserve it, Hogan. They mean the professional wrestling what Hulk Hogan means in this current environment. Yeah, what the fuck had you done in the past 10 years besides have one match with The Rock that was probably the best match you had in that entire decade? Why? Because Rock decided we're going to call an audible and play heel because they were cheering Hogan like crazy. And the Toronto crowd made that fucking match way better than it was. You put that match on mute, you mute that crowd at all. Or if you take that crowd out of it, if you replace them with like half the crowd energy, that match is goddamn awful. Because Hogan couldn't fucking move anymore. He's 52 at that point. So that means at this point, I think he was 51, 52. So that means he was 60. Like 59, 60 when he came into Impact Wrestling. Fucking ridiculous. But anyway, slamming a 700-pound giant. A 700-pound giant that had to drink so much wine, had to wear a back brace because he was so goddamn beat up. He wanted to do right by business by putting you over, Hogan. He wanted to do right by that. But no, you had to make it all about you, like you're the one reason that professional wrestling was better. Hogan was a big reason why professional wrestling got as big as it did. But so was Vince and the competition for Jim Crockett Promotions. If it had not been for the AWA, guess what, Hogan? You would not have ever become the star that you were. And I'm going to say that right there. And I'm not fond of giving credit to an old mindset like Vern Gagne, even though he really did come up with a whole lot of great shit for AWA. He was too stuck in his ways. But had it not been for that, you wouldn't have been the superstar that you were. Vince wouldn't have even brought you back in, Vince Jr. Wouldn't have brought you back in, Hogan. You wouldn't have become the superstar you were had it not been for people helping you out. But I guess that just proves that you like to slight people and everything. Now, yes, he could have been playing up a heel role here at this point, but he was just undercutting everybody like Raven, who had had a few stints in TNA and had done pretty damn well. But no, let's just cast him off to the side. RVD, who I'm not the biggest fan of, but could go out there and have some really banger matches when he wanted to and didn't want to just do a bunch of high spots. No, let's slam them. And then, going on, no wonder this company was in the shape it's in. It got in worse shape after you came in, Hogan, because the production values went way up and the ratings went up. About like that. That's about how far they went up. This is probably a size you're familiar with, Hogan. Because Brooke probably took one look at that and said, I don't care if you're my dad, I'm not sleeping with you. You sick fucking freak. You goddamn daughter-desiring freak. No wonder you and Trump are friends. Both want to fuck your daughters and you're both orange freaks. So, he goes on to say, it's time to get rid of the trash, the garbage, the worthless piece of crap out here. Good, Hulk, leave. You didn't need to stay in the goddamn company. It was pointless. Did you see the Sting Hogan match they had at Bound for Glory the following year in 2011? It was an absolute atrocity. Not that I expected it to be anything less, but it was pretty goddamn awful. And we started with Dixie Carter. And that was when they had shoehorned their way into kayfabe storyline owning Impact Wrestling. And then, yeah, we're getting very real around here. We are so real, it's unbelievable. You guys made it all about the old people that couldn't do a goddamn thing, Hogan. That's basically what you fucking did. That's what you fucking did. Made it about all that. Seriously, you made it about you. You made it about you being the end all be all and the only reason why people were tuning in to TNA wrestling when they were tuning in to watch these originals benefit from these legends coming in, and they didn't get that. Flair at least tried with Fortune. I'll give him credit for that. And I'm not saying Flair didn't give a solid effort and try really goddamn hard, but they had Foley at that point. They had a lot of people that they just didn't fucking need in there. It just it was so goddamn embarrassing. Because if you don't get over, like I said, you're fired. If you don't draw numbers, if you don't entertain, if you don't put asses in seats, if you don't put the coinage in the piggy bank, I don't know why I say coinage. You're fired. No more games. No more kayfabe. It's a work. I won 34 tag team belts. Who gives a damn how many fake belts you won? Every single belt you won then, Hogan, was a fake belt. Which is really sad, because you competed for the IWGP heavyweight title, and that's not a goddamn fake belt. I mean, granted, wrestling is all just a work and everything and all that stuff. But it's fucking ridiculous. He would say 34 tag team belts are fake. Hogan, it took you how long to win a tag team championship? And you won it with Edge, who, at that point, better worker than you were. I mean, come on, Hogan. But then, who gives a damn how many fake belts you won? If you don't draw money, you get fired around here. If you don't put asses in seats, you're gone. Well, Hogan, you should have been able to leave at that point. And I'm just so fucking pissed off about that goddamn thing. Because here's why it pisses me off. Hogan further proving that he's a goddamn idiot. And he's a goddamn egotist. And I get it. He was probably just playing up a character. He's probably just having fun. But that left such a bad taste in every fan's mouth because they're like thinking, wait a second. We were thinking that maybe it would be different than what WCW did and that they would actually use them to put over younger guys and guys that could actually benefit from it. No, they didn't use it to put over people that benefited from it. It was an absolute atrocity. Good goddamn God, this was so fucking ridiculous. Hogan was a fucking moron for saying this. Because right then, yes, the crowd still popped somewhat for Hogan. But it was never really the same. He really started to actually lose fan support, I think, around 2006. I think it was a Hall of Fame 2006. I forget who he was inducting. Was it Mean Gene? I don't remember if Mean Gene went in that year. I think he might have. But, they were chanting one more match about Hogan and Austin. Austin Hogan. And he did this. And he did the whole hand signal thing. That's what's fucking ridiculous about all this bullshit, is that Hogan did that and just proved. I mean, obviously, the guy had given his body to wrestling and had done a whole lot. I'm not saying he didn't suffer injuries that, a lot of wrestlers don't suffer. He did, and he did beat his body up night after night after night for a number of years, hence why he got the WCW deal he did and did not have to do nearly as much in the ring. But at this point, he needed Impact a whole lot more than Impact needed him. And Dixie just threw money at him, threw money at Foley, threw money at Flair, threw money at Sting. And I'm not even knocking those last three. Flair seemed like he tried to do business right in TNA. Foley, I didn't really care for Foley's time in TNA. I really didn't. I thought it was... He tried, but he shouldn't have been wrestling at that point. Even though I like the match that him and Sting had Lockdown 2009, where Foley, yes, the young, spry individual he was, I believe at that point he was 44, 45. He was Impact World Champion after that match. They could have given it to Christopher Daniels. They could have given it to Samoa Joe again. They could have done a whole lot of stuff. Nah, they gave it to Mick Foley. Nothing against Mick Foley. That was before Hogan came in. After this point, I knew right from the very beginning, right from the first episode where Hogan and Bischoff and all the old guys had come in. I knew right then, them turning it back to the four-sided ring, which it was what it was. Impact's gone to, I believe, has gone back to the four-sided ring now, and it sort of makes sense. It benefits them. But at that time, they had made such a radical change and put the ramp to the ring, much like the older WCW shows. It just made it seem, there's nothing wrong with going old school, but it just made it seem like we're flashing back, and like all this new stuff that you were doing didn't fucking work at all. It just slapped everybody in the goddamn face. And this one's going to go a little bit longer because it's my magnum opus on this series. But this is just what's fucking ridiculous about Hogan. He didn't put anybody over. He didn't. People say, the Abyss speech and all this kind of stuff or whatever. He didn't fucking put anybody over. Oh, I'm giving you this Hall of Fame ring. But it's after he said, I broke my body for this business. Me. Yeah, Hogan, we get it. You did that. No one fucking asked you to keep coming back to the damn ring. You didn't have to. You know why you needed to? Because you were a fucking idiot. You married a goddamn wax figure. And that's why you kept having to wrestle and kept having to go back to Impact Wrestling and then had to go back to WWE because you needed money because you were a fucking idiot. And then you had the divorce and everything, and that wiped you out. And then you had to get caught on, had to have that sex tape thing happen to then get more money. Half of it probably went to your ex-wife anyway. It's Hogan just proving right there that he was just a fucking idiot. So yeah, I respect what Hogan has done in wrestling. I do, despite all this anger, and I'm getting a headache, so I'm going to have to calm down here a bit. But Hogan, that speech right there turned so many fans away. It turned fans away from Impact, even though they were still drawing some ratings. There were a lot of people that were just watching, okay, maybe that speech didn't mean anything, and nope, it was just more about the old guys. And a lot of times the originals were just getting, buried further. And that didn't need to be the case. And anytime younger guys or newer talents and newer gimmicks, Bully Ray or even a returning Jeff Hardy or Austin Aries got the championship, it was overshadowed by stuff like Aces and Eights and all that stuff and everything. And it's just Hogan was featured too much on TV instead of being like this creative genius he claims to be, or coming out occasionally to announce some big matches. If he had been using small doses, it wouldn't have been bad. But they turned into the old guy show, and that's why I have no fucking respect for Hogan, especially in the later part of his career. So yeah, that's pretty much it on my thoughts on that. Now I'm going to go to two more topics. So yeah, this one's probably going to go 30 minutes. I could extend this to a part 25. In fact, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just going to extend it to part 25 because this really got me goddamn fired up. This went almost 20 minutes. So yeah, Hogan's TNA speech and just fucking Hulk Hogan. If he comes back to WWE, if he comes back as a GM of Raw, it's going to be absolutely goddamn abysmal. Because we don't need to see him on TV in 2018. We don't fucking need to. Good fucking God, we do not need to. It's fucking ridiculous. Absolutely goddamn abysmal. But anyway, that's what I gotta say about Hogan's Getting Real in TNA, brother. That's what I gotta say about his speech. Agree, disagree with what I said, like, share, comment, subscribe. Twitter link in the description. Twitter handle in the description. It's been Real Honesty with Jar Mifflin, and I will see you soon.